The first time I saw her, I thought my visor was malfunctioning. The docking ring of Port Helios was chaos as usual, cargo drones whining, translators barking in 6 languages, the smell of recycled air mixed with hot metal and cheap spices. I was there for a routine maintenance job, replacing power couplings on a freighter that had jumped too close to a pulsar and cooked half its systems. Nothing glamorous. Nothing memorable. Then she stepped out of the quarantine corridor. She didn't look human, but she wasn't monstrous either. Tall, slender, skin like brushed silver with faint lines of blue light running beneath it, as if her veins carried starlight instead of blood. Her eyes were large and dark, reflective like polished obsidian, and they missed nothing. Around her shoulders was a cloak woven from something that shimmered between colors, refusing to settle on one hue. Everyone else noticed her too, and just as quickly looked away. I'd seen that reaction before. Some species triggered instinctive discomfort in humans and non-humans alike, something evolutionary translators couldn't smooth over. Dockworkers suddenly found reasons to check manifests. Security officers pretended to be engrossed in their wrist displays. Even the vendors along the concourse went quiet. She stood there alone, calm, patient, as if she'd expected this. I don't know why I spoke to her. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the way her posture radiated a kind of contained sadness. Or maybe I was just tired of pretending the universe wasn't bigger and stranger than my own fears. "Welcome to Port Helios," I said, stepping forward. "Customs is a mess today, but if you need directions, I can help." Her head turned toward me in one smooth motion. For a heartbeat, those dark eyes locked onto mine, and I felt the strange sensation of being seen, truly seen, like someone had peeled back layers I didn't know I wore. Then she smiled. It wasn't exaggerated or predatory. It was small, genuine, and carried a warmth that made the noise of the port fade into the background. "Thank you," she said, her voice perfectly translated, but tinged with musical undertones. "You are the first to speak to me since I arrived." That surprised me more than her appearance. "Really?" "Yes. Your kind is cautious." Her smile widened slightly. "Wisely so in many cases." I laughed, awkwardly. "Fair enough. I'm Elias." She inclined her head. "I am called Salith." We stood there for a moment, 2 strangers in the middle of controlled chaos. Then a security drone hovered closer, its sensors flickering between us. "Is there a problem?" I asked it. "No problem detected," the drone replied flatly. "Please proceed." Salith watched it drift away. "You intervene easily," she observed. "Habit," I said. "So, what brings you to Helios?" Her gaze lifted to the station's transparent dome, where the curve of a nearby gas giant filled the stars. "I am here to observe," she said carefully. "And to decide." "Decide what?" She looked back at me, smile returning. "Perhaps I will tell you, Elias of Earth, if you walk with me." I hesitated for only a second before nodding. My shift could wait. Something told me this moment mattered. As we walked through the station, I noticed how people reacted when they realized I was with her. Some stared openly. Others whispered. A few backed away entirely. Salith seemed unbothered. "You're not nervous," I said. "I am," she replied. "But not for the reasons you think." We stopped at a viewport overlooking the shipyards, where massive vessels hung like metallic whales in the void. Tug craft flitted between them, sparks of light against darkness. "This station," she said, "is built at the crossroads of many paths." "Trade routes," I agreed. "Political boundaries. Smuggling lanes." "And futures," she added softly. I glanced at her. "You talk like a philosopher." She smiled again. "On my world, Philosophy and survival are the same discipline. That caught my attention. Your world in trouble? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned fully toward me. Elias, when you spoke to me earlier, you did not know who or what I am. Still don't, I admitted. And yet you chose kindness. That is statistically rare. I shrugged. Seemed like the right thing to do. Her eyes searched my face as if verifying something. May I ask you a question? Sure. If I were to tell you that my presence here could change the fate of your species, would you believe me? I stared at her, half expecting a punchline. I'd probably assume you were exaggerating. Her smile didn't fade. Reasonable. Before I could respond, the station lights dimmed briefly, a standard power cycle, but the murmur of the crowd shifted into unease. Alarms didn't sound, yet something felt wrong. Salith straightened. They're watching now. Who is they? I asked. She raised one slender hand, and the faint blue lines beneath her skin brightened. Around us, a subtle distortion rippled through the air, like heat haze. For your safety, she said, and mine, I will be direct. The distortion expanded, forming a translucent barrier that muffled the sounds of the station. People outside glanced around in confusion, unable to see us clearly. My heart hammered. Salith, what's going on? She met my gaze, all humor gone. I am an envoy of the continuum. I'd heard the name, of course. Everyone had. An ancient coalition or empire, depending on who you asked, older than most recorded civilizations. They were rumored to guide the development of younger species, sometimes subtly, sometimes not at all. You're that continuum? I whispered. One of many, she said. And I am here because humanity has reached a threshold. I swallowed. What kind of threshold? She gestured toward the stars. Your technology accelerates. Your conflicts intensify. You stand at the edge of expansion or collapse. That's not exactly news, I said weakly. But what is news, she continued, is that the continuum has debated your fate for decades. Whether to reveal ourselves fully, whether to intervene, or whether to let you fail. A chill ran through me. And you're the deciding vote? In a sense. She studied me intently. I was sent to observe not your leaders or your armies, but your individuals. To see if your species still possesses the capacity for unprompted empathy. I snorted softly. You picked a random dock worker? I picked a moment, she corrected. You happened to be in it. The barrier around us shimmered, then faded. The station's noise rushed back in, but I noticed no one seemed aware of what had just happened. My legs felt weak. Okay, I said. Let's say I believe you. What happens now? Salith's smile returned, gentler, but carrying immense weight. Now, Elias, I make you an offer. We found a quiet observation lounge, its windows opening onto the endless black. For a while, neither of us spoke. I needed time to process the idea that the fate of humanity might hinge on a conversation I'd started on a whim. What kind of offer? I finally asked. She folded her hands gracefully. I can show you the future. I laughed once, sharply. That's a big claim. Not a single future, she clarified. Many. Possibilities branching from your present choices. And why me? Because you are ordinary, she said simply. You hold no official power, no inherited authority, yet you chose connection over fear. I leaned back, staring at the stars. So, what if I like what I see, I give humanity a thumbs up? Her eyes softened. Not exactly. Your role would be more involved. That made me sit up. Involved how? Salith took a slow breath. The continuum cannot directly uplift your species without destabilizing galactic balance. But there are intermediaries, bridges, ambassadors.
More than that, she said.
Partners. My pulse quickened. You're saying you want me to work for you. I am saying I want you to choose, she replied. To see what lies ahead and decide if humanity is ready to step into a larger story. And if I say no? Her smile held a trace of sadness. Then I will continue my observations elsewhere. And the continuum will decide without your insight. I rubbed my face. This is insane. Yes, she agreed calmly. Most pivotal moments are. Silence stretched between us. I thought about my life, routine jobs, quiet evenings, the smallness of my worries compared to the scale she described. I thought about Earth, flawed and chaotic, but filled with people capable of kindness when it mattered. What's the catch? I asked. Salith met my gaze. If you accept, your life will never return to what it was. You will leave this station with me, learn from us, and one day, you may be asked to speak for your species. My mouth went dry. That's a lot to put on one person. Yes, she said softly, which is why consent is essential. I laughed under my breath. You know, a minute ago, I was worried about missing my shift. Her smile widened. Perspective is a powerful thing. I looked out at the stars again. Fear coiled in my chest, but beneath it was something else. Wonder. A sense of rightness I couldn't explain. Okay, I said. Show me. Salith rose smoothly to her feet. She extended her hand, palm up. Light gathered around her fingers, forming intricate patterns that hurt to look at directly. Then take my hand, Elias of Earth, she said, and witness what may yet be. I hesitated only a moment before placing my hand in hers. The universe unfolded. I saw humanity spread beyond its current borders, ships bearing Earth's mark reaching distant systems. I saw alliances formed and broken, worlds terraformed and lost. I saw versions of the future where greed and fear led to ruin, burning colonies, silent skies. And I saw others. Futures where humanity learned restraint, where cooperation replaced domination, where we stood not as conquerors, but as contributors to a vast, interconnected galaxy. The visions shifted, branching endlessly, all hinging on countless small choices made by ordinary people. When it ended, I was on my knees, gasping. Salith knelt beside me, steadying my shoulders. Now you understand, she said. I looked up at her, eyes burning. You're right. This changes everything. She smiled, proud, hopeful. So, what do you choose? I thought of the moment I'd spoken to her, not knowing who she was, just seeing someone alone and deciding to care. I choose to try, I said, for better futures, even if it's hard. Her smile was radiant. Then welcome, Elias. Humanity has taken its first step. As the stars outside the window seemed a little closer, I realized the shock wasn't what she'd offered me. It was what she'd seen in us, and decided was worth saving. Port Helios faded behind us as Salith's vessel slipped free of the docking clamps without a sound. No alarms rang. No one tried to stop us. To the station, I was just another maintenance worker clocking out late. To the continuum, I had become something else entirely. I stood beside Salith on the ship's observation deck as the stars stretched and folded, reality bending into a corridor of light. The jump was smoother than any human drive I'd experienced, yet the weight of what I'd chosen pressed down on me harder than gravity ever could. You will be afraid, Salith said quietly, watching the light stream flow past us. Often. I already am, I admitted. She nodded. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something else matters more. The jump ended. Before us hung a structure so vast my mind struggled to comprehend it. Rings upon rings of luminous architecture encircling a blue-white star, each ring alive with movement. Ships of impossible design drifted between them like thoughts made real. The continuum nexus, she said. Few of your kind have seen it. My voice came out hoarse. And they trust me to stand here? They trust the choice you made, Salith replied. And the ones you will make next. Days, maybe weeks, passed as I learned. Languages, without words. Histories spanning millions of years. Species that had risen, fallen, and risen again. I learned that the continuum did not save civilizations from themselves. It simply offered doors and watched who chose to walk through them. Eventually, the time came. I stood before an assembly of beings so diverse they defied description. Salith was at my side, silent but steady. At the center of the chamber, a projection formed, not of Earth as it was, but as it could be. A voice echoed through the space. Human representative. Speak. My heart pounded. I thought of Earth's crowded cities, its wars and kindnesses, its endless contradictions. I thought of a single moment in a space station when I decided not to look away. We're flawed, I said. We're reckless. We hurt each other far too often. But we learn. Slowly. Painfully. And when we're given a chance to be better, sometimes we take it. The chamber was silent. I won't promise you perfection, I continued. All I can promise is that we're worth the risk. Not because we're powerful, but because we can choose to care, even when no one is watching. The light shifted. Probabilities recalculated. Futures adjusted. At last, the voice spoke again. Observation status changed. Humanity will not walk alone. I exhaled, knees nearly giving way. Salitha's hand found mine. You did well, she said softly. As I looked out across the nexus, I understood the true meaning of her offer. I hadn't been chosen to save humanity. I'd been chosen to remind the galaxy that sometimes the smallest act, one smile returned, one voice raised in kindness, was enough to change the course of countless stars. And somewhere far away, Earth's future quietly, finally, began to shift.